I told you I was getting into a series called The Discipline of Prayer, subtitle, Cheat Code, because prayer is the cheat code. Prayer is what takes you from where you are to where God has called you to be. And so I'm going to do that still, but I'm not going to do that today. As pastors, we plan, and you have to plan. And you got to get ahead, and you got to know what you want to do and how you want to do it. But you got to be willing to call audibles too. And when I mean an audible, I don't know how many of you all watch football, but an audible is when a quarterback comes to the line and he had a play called by his offensive coordinator. But then when he looks at the defense, the quarterback realizes that the play that was called is not going to further the cause of the offense. He knows a run play was called, but then he sees that the line is stacked. The linebackers are down and the safeties are down. He knows that if he goes with the current play that's called, they're going to lose yards. I had to call an audible. And this message that I'm going to teach tonight is as much for me as it is for you. And you know how we roll here at Chosen. We don't do the fake stuff very well. And so I just wanted to have a moment of transparency with you as it relates to how I felt this week dealing with the death of our Chosen kids member, Israel Scott. See, I got to be real with you. Even though I've written a book titled Living in Purpose, talking about how adversity creates purpose, how God can take your greatest pains and use it for great potential in your life, even though I'm an author of a book that talks about how to handle pain, doesn't make me an expert. And this week, I've had to deal with a lot of different emotions because I looked at Israel in the hospital and I knew he was going to get better. I knew it. We prayed the prayers. We had the faith. And then around 2:35 a.m., the doctors called it. And so in that moment, I felt inadequate as a leader. Because you all know, a few months before then, we lost our mother to COVID. Linda's mom passed to COVID, and I prayed with her too. And I'm like, God, why is everybody that I pray for dying? Like these are people who are close to me. And I know I had a faith. I know how I'm living my life. And it seems like you keep telling me no. And so I've been angry. I've been frustrated. I've second-guessed my effectiveness as a shepherd and a covering for my church. And in those moments, I've had to do what I've taught so many other people to do. I've had to seek God. And I told them at the funeral this morning, at the beginning of my message, that many of us have been taught bad theology. Somebody told us when we were growing up, and y'all can finish the sentence, you never question grandma, auntie, granddad, mom, dad. Almost every single one of us in this room have heard somebody say, you never question. And what frustrates me about folk is that they give you advice that they've heard instead of giving you advice that they've read. We pass down what grandma said instead of passing down what God said. Because when I read the scriptures, I'm reminded of Habakkuk, who told God, it doesn't seem like you listening. Have you ever been there? Let's just keep it real. Yeah, I hope you like me. I hadn't learned how to figure out fake. I don't know how to do that. So let's just keep it real. We've had some moments where we felt like the prayers were hitting the ceilings. Like, this is a waste of time. Like, God, you see the pain that I'm in, and you don't seem to be doing anything about it. What about Abram when he was bargaining for the lives of those who were in Sodom and Gomorrah, trying to rescue his nephew Lot from the impending doom? And he asked God, won't the Lord of the heavens do what is right? God, I hear what you're saying, and it doesn't seem right. And so, no disrespect, God, but I'm not sure about your character right now. Won't the God of heaven do what's right? Y'all looking at me crazy. Okay, that Abram doesn't move you. Habakkuk doesn't move you. How about this one? What about Jesus? When he was on the cross, sacrificing his life for our sins, he was 100% God and 100% man. And he looks up to heaven and he said, my God, why have you forsaken me? That sounds like a question to me. And so if Jesus on his cross could question God, don't tell me on my cross I can't. We serve a big God. And he's not like some folk who get real defensive when you challenge them. You want to know how you know who you are? Is when people can challenge you without you getting upset. People that are defensive usually have identity issues. God doesn't have an identity issue. So when you question his love, he still knows that he's love. When you question his wisdom, he still knows that he's light and he sees the end from the beginning and he can do no wrong. It's all right to question. Some of the most inspiring conversations have come from people's interrogatives. It's all right to have a question. I want to read 2 Corinthians 12, 7 through 10, because this will help give us some insight on how to handle when God says no. So to keep me from becoming conceited, because of the surpassing greatness of the revelations, a thorn was given me in the flesh. Paul is writing this, and God was revealing amazing things to Paul. And Paul says that he had to endure pain. And the pain, the hurt, was to keep him humble. He said, a thorn was given me in the flesh, a messenger of Satan to harass me, to keep me from becoming conceited. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord about this, that it should leave me. I like that. He said, I asked God. But not only did he ask Nate, good to have you back, by the way. He said, I pleaded, not that it would, but that it should. little nuance there. Not would is different than should. If you ask somebody to do something and you say, I wish you would, that doesn't imply that it's the right thing. Should means I've earned it. I'm suffering and this should leave me. I'm suffering and I shouldn't be because I'm the pastor of a church. I'm suffering and I shouldn't be because I've written 3/4 of the New Testament. I'm in pain, God, but before you chose to hurt me, you must have forgot to check my resume. Because if you knew who I was, you would have picked somebody else. This should leave me because my life is in order. I'm doing what you called me to do. But let me help you how I had to help me. Your resume doesn't get rid of all your pain. He says, you know I'm serving, right? You know I've been a great son, so why you gonna let my mama get sick? You know I've been a great employee, so why should I get laid off? If we're honest, there's some stuff that has happened and we were frustrated with God because we didn't think it should have. Listen to what God says. But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you. For my power is made perfect in weakness. I'm saying no to taking away the pain, but I'm saying yes to giving you the strength to get through it. Sometimes the miracles are seen not when God prevents the pain, but when God shows up with a supernatural peace in the midst of it. He says, therefore I will boast all the more gladly of my weakness, so that the power of Christ may rest upon me. God said no to the prayer, but he said yes to the power. See, when people are hurting, most of the time, they don't need the ministry of preaching. They need the ministry of presence. Let me explain to you what I mean, because sometimes we misuse this text, and I don't want to do that tonight. There are times when people are suffering with pain, and God is using it to keep them humble. Because we all know that at times we can start feeling ourselves. And that sometimes God will use painful situations to pull us closer. But that's not the only reason people suffer. So I want to be careful that when people are suffering, we're not going up to them telling them the reason God allowed this pain is because you arrogant. See, that's what happened to Job and his friends, Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar. In the book of Job, Job was going through immense suffering, and he had 3 homeboys who tried to help him. And they did a couple things right. They got involved, and they sympathized. They showed up. That helps when people are suffering. We need to be there when people are suffering. We need to set aside our schedule and show up when they're suffering. We need to be sensitive to their needs and make the sacrifice. And they sympathized. It talks about when they saw Job suffering, they cried. They tore their clothes, which in the days of antiquity was a representation of suffering and sorrow. So they were willing to suffer with Job. The problem is they tried to determine why Job was going through something so difficult. Their ministry of presence turned into the ministry of preaching. What made Job say in Job 16:2, talking about his friends, I've heard many such things. Miserable comforters are you all. Hey, I hope you never have to tell that to your crew when they come help you. He says, y'all are talking too much and you're doing a miserable job of making me feel better. Have you ever felt that way where you wish that people would stop calling? You wish that they would stop showing up? And Job is like, y'all are miserable counselors. Their ministry of presence turned into a ministry of preaching. Sometimes the best thing we can do for folk when they're suffering is just show up and shut up. You are not God. You do not know why they're going through what they're going through. Yes, there are times when people are suffering the consequences of their sin, and there are other times when they're suffering and they hadn't done anything to deserve it. Job's homeboys had a bogus belief system. They contended that Job's suffering was because he had done something wrong, and as a result, they consistently communicated to Job that he needed to confess his sin so that God would make him successful again. And to this, God replies in Job 42:7. After the Lord had spoken these words to Job, the Lord said to Eliphaz the Temanite, my anger burns against you and against your 2 friends, for you have not spoken of me what is right. You had me wrong. And some of us, if we're honest, including the man with the microphone, has had God wrong during different seasons of suffering. See, we don't admit it, but we think that we can control God. We think that 1 + 1 should equal 2, but sometimes in the kingdom 1 + 1 equals 3. We don't always understand why God is doing what he's doing or why he's allowing what he's allowing. We don't always understand why God will allow us to feel pain. Why would God allow a door to be shut? Why would God allow me to be in a season of confusion? Why would God allow me to be going through such traumatic and problematic times in my life? We think that we should have God figured out, but the Bible says that his ways aren't our ways, that his thoughts aren't our thoughts, and that as high as the heavens are above the earth, so are his ways above ours. We won't always get it right because we don't think like God does. Rick Warren said, trying to understand God is like an ant trying to understand the internet. we live in a neighborhood in our head, and God is dealing with billions. We've got a circle of influence of 5, 10, 15, 1,000, 5,000, 10,000. God is dealing with an entire planet of people that he's leading in purpose. He said, y'all have been preaching when you should have just been giving your presence, because you won't always understand why it hurts so bad. I love John 9, 1 through 5. It ministers to me. I hope it ministers to you. As Jesus was walking along, he saw a man who had been blind from birth. Rabbi, his disciples asked, why was this man born blind? Was it because of his own sins or his parents' sins? They see this man in suffering, and they immediately conclude that he's suffering because of sin, that his parents must have done something wrong and he's being punished for it, or he has done something wrong and he is being punished for it. Look at how Jesus responds in John 9:3. It was not because of his sins. It was not because of his parents' sins. This happened so that the power of God could be seen in him. Sometimes your pain is so that the power of God could be shown. Sometimes God will allow you to go through something so people could see the light of Christ shining in you. Sometimes God will allow us to go through pain so that people can see a supernatural peace in your life. Sometimes God will allow you to suffer so that folk can see a supernatural smile on your face. They know you suffering, but some way you keep producing. They know you hurting, but you keep on loving them kids and loving your husband. They know you hurting, but you haven't given up on your family yet. Sometimes the miracle's not seen in the prevention. The miracle's seen in the intervention. When God shows up and you keep living your life according to his purpose in the midst of the pain. I didn't say yes to your prayer because there's something greater I'm trying to accomplish. Could it be the no was leading to the yes? He says, I need you to be a vessel. I need to show my power through you. He says we must quickly carry out the task assigned to us by the one who sent us. The night is coming and then no one can work. But while I am here in the world, I am the light of the world. Why did he go from talking about the power of God that could be seen all the way to we must quickly carry out the task that are assigned to us by who sent us? I believe it's because sometimes we spend too much time dwelling on our pain and not enough time focusing on our purpose. He says, y'all are asking me why this man is in pain, but here's what the focus needs to be: quickly carrying out the tasks that are assigned to us. Let me remind us all tonight that we are on assignment by God. You are not an accident. You are here on purpose, planned by God. You may have been an oops to your parents, but you were no oops to God. You got a purpose print on your life, something that God wants to bring forth, and he says you got to quickly do it. We can't sit in our pain forever because there's something that we've got to do, and time is running out, and the enemy wants you to wallow. The enemy wants you to be depressed. The enemy wants you to be despondent, and God is saying, get through your pain so you can get to the purpose. It's okay to have questions. But we can't stay there. He said this happened so the glory or power of God could be seen. What's the power? Here it is. My grace. Is this song? Turn me up in the mic. I thought y'all would get excited about that. He said, my grace is sufficient for you. I'm not going to end the pain, but I'm going to give you enough grace to get through it. Yeah, it's not going to kill you. You're going to be able to do what I've assigned you to do. So in the middle of your pain, you're going to still be productive. That's a word for somebody, Nate. Because you thought that the pain and your situation was going to stop you. All eyes on me. It's not going to stop you. Even in the midst of your pain, you still going to be productive. Yeah, the devil isn't going to win. You still going to do what God has called you to do. You still going to carry out the task that he's assigned to you. You can stop doubting whether or not it's going to happen. You can stop second guessing your success. God has sent me to remind you that with his grace, you can still get it. Paul went from begging for a way out of his pain to boasting in his pain. He gotta know. And he shifted real quick, family. He said, therefore, I will boast all the more gladly of my weakness, so that the power of Christ may rest on me. I'm going to start bragging about what I was begging to end. How about this one? I asked God to help me get the bill paid. He said no, so I'm going to post about the foreclosure. Oh, y'all didn't like that. Paul said, I'm going to go from begging to boasting. I'm going to go from being embarrassed to shining. I'm no longer going to ask for the pain to be removed. I'm going to start boasting about the pain I'm in. Because when I boast about the pain and I keep being productive, people will then see the power of God. 1 Corinthians 10:13 says, no temptation has overtaken you except what is common to mankind. And God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear. But when you are tempted, he will provide a way out so that you can endure it. That doesn't make sense at first glance. Because if you're going to provide a way out, what is there to endure? God, I want my way out to be over. What do you mean? You're going to provide a way out. If you're going to get me out of it, I shouldn't feel the pain. If you get me out, what is there to endure? But what I realize is the way out isn't the way out of the situation. The way out is out of the frustration. Let me rewind and repeat it. Boy, y'all a tough crowd tonight. Listen. And God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear. But when you are tempted, he will provide a way out so you can stay in. Man, y'all act like y'all preached a funeral this morning. Let me stand up. Here. Y'all tired. Here it is. He said, I'm going to provide a way out so you can endure it. The way out isn't of the pain. The way out isn't of the predicament. It's of the pain. I'm going to keep that person you praying out of your life in your life. But Gavin, you're not going to cuss them out anymore. I know you've been asking for another job, but you're not going to get any callbacks. But what I'm going to do is give you the patience to deal with a belligerent boss and crazy coworkers. I know you praying your baby daddy will move to California, but I'm going to move it in your neighborhood. But what I'm going to do is give you the strength to pray for those that persecute you and love those that hate you. Because the testimony is the fact that you can shine in the middle of your suffering. The testimony, the way that you know me, is that you can endure the pain and still live your God-given purpose. The testimony is not in the prevention all the time. The miracle can be in the intervention. How can you have a supernatural peace that passes all understanding? How can you keep going in the middle of that type of pain? You must know God. How can you keep showing love even though all they do is show hate? There must be something special about you. How can you keep on forgiving even though they haven't asked for it yet? How in the world can you keep on showing so much love? The way out isn't always of the situation, but I'll give you a grace to get out the frustration. I'll let you start praising in the middle of your enemies. I'll give you everything you need to get through it. I'm not going to get you around it, but I'm going to take you through it. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. I know that there's some stuff I got to go through, but I'm not going to let the fear get me. I'm not going to let the doubt get me. I'm not going to let the enemy get in my head. I'm going to be ye transformed by the renewing of my mind, and then I will see God's good, pleasing, and perfect will for my life. Is there anybody else besides myself that's going to cast down those thoughts of negativity, those thoughts of fear and doubt, all the guilt? God says that just because you got to go through the situation don't mean you got to have a frustration. I told y'all during the pandemic when I was teaching on Philippians 4:13, everybody knows it. I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. But you don't know the power of that verse unless you look at it in its context. Paul wasn't talking about being able to get the job he's always wanted. And Paul wasn't talking about getting the boo that he always wanted. Paul wasn't talking about getting the new iPhone that he's been praying for. Paul said, I know how to live on almost nothing or with everything. I have learned the secret of living in every situation, whether it's with a full stomach or empty, with plenty or little. I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. Let me repeat it. I know how to live on almost nothing or with everything. I can have 1 million followers on Instagram, or I can have one. I can have ramen noodles, or I can be eating Red Lobster. I can have steak, or I can have some rice and potato. It doesn't matter to me, because I know how to have a lot and I know how to have a little. I can live broke or I can live balling, because all I need is Jesus Christ. Is there anybody besides myself that knows I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me? That I don't need to have what I think I do. All I need is the grace. I learned the secret. The reason we struggle with suffering so much is we ain't learned the secret. We only can be happy when life is one way. I can only be happy if I'm balling. I don't know what to do if I'm broke. I can only be happy if I have a bae. I hadn't learned how to deal with being by myself. Here's how you know you've matured: when you can shout over the no. Paul said, I learned the secret of living in every situation. Chosen generation, all eyes on me. You need to learn the secret. That way you can stop pouting when you don't get what you asked on your birthday. You don't know the secret yet. You don't know how to be happy when you don't have what you've been asking for. Married folks, you need to learn the secret. Because you get an attitude with your husband when he doesn't give you what you're asking. You get an attitude with your wife when she doesn't give you what you're asking. But here's how you know you can have an enduring marriage: when you can be just as happy when you get the no. Can you smile when she say, not tonight? I hadn't learned that secret. Y'all, I keep telling y'all to grow up, and every single week y'all come. See, that is what maturity looks like. My prayer for myself and us is that we can get to the point to where we don't lose our faith because of frustrating times. To where we can hear the no and not doubt that we know God. To where even in the midst of immense pain, please do not misinterpret this. I know your pain is great. I know it's immense. I know that there are times where you don't feel like you can make it. But here's my prayer for us: that we can hang in long enough to get to the grace. Because when we get to the grace, we stop begging for the thorn to be removed and we start boasting in brokenness. And we'll have the same testimony as Paul, where we can say, I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. Why do you think Paul got to that point? How do you know you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you if you have not been tested? See, we quote the verse without being tested on it. You don't know you can do all things until you've had a thorn and God said no and he got you through it. But one day we'll be able to look back over our lives and we'll be able to quote Philippians 4:13 with integrity. We'll be able to look back and say, yeah, I can do all things through Christ that strengthened me, because when I lost it all, I kept my mind. Yeah, when everybody left me, I didn't lose it all, because I realized that Christ was still with me. Yeah, when I wasn't as popular, I didn't lose my peace. Why? Because I still had my relationship with the Prince of Peace. I know how to live on the nose. I know how to live on the not yets. For I can do everything through Christ who gives me the strength.